What remained? Mr. Today, on the day of the yearly purge, called a meeting on the lawn for all of Arteme. "Friends," he said, "I am pleased to tell you that the new high priest of Quill, Gunnar Haluki, and I have come to an agreement. Our two lands will live separately in peace." The new high priest Gunnar, standing behind the crowd in human form this time, glanced at his daughter. Lanny swiveled around and flashed a smile. "Our borders will remain open," Mr. Today continued. "Residents of both places will be free to come and go as they wish, though it may be some time before anyone wishes to step into the other place. Some may never wish to." As this is quite an unfathomable place for many of the residents of Quill, I ask that you treat our visitors with the same respect you give me. The new high priest assures me that he will request the same. An agreeable murmur moved through the crowd. "We've also agreed that if Quill chooses to continue to purge their unwanteds each year, those unwanteds will be welcomed here with open arms, as always, with the understanding that they will not be put to death." Mr. Today continued earnestly as the noise died down. "For those of you who eventually wish to find your families and return to Quill, you are free to do so, though be prepared for disappointments. Likewise, for those whose ties have been severed completely, there are no demands on you. Healing is a slow process, and for some impossible." The old mage's eyes grew misty as he looked out over the survivors, many of whom still carried visible wounds. Even more, he thought, catching Alex's eye, still carry invisible wounds that no magical spell can take away. He continued, "And for those who wish to invite their families to Arteme, you are also free to do so, as you know," he said, and took a deep breath, tears streaming down his cheeks freely now. "We never, ever run out of room in Arteme." Mr. Today blew his nose into his hanky, loudly. And then he looked out over the throng of unwanteds and said, "And with that we leave our sorrows for another day, because today is a day to celebrate." A cheer rose up from the crowd as they began to chant, "Today, today, today." Marcus Today raised his hand and smiled, softening the chant. He went on to say, "Friends, this is the traditional day of the purge, and High Priest Haluki, having had little time to make changes, has carried out the purge as usual. That is the wish of his people. And before you scowl at the practices of Quill, please remember that changes take time. Today we welcome the 32 new members of Arteme, seated in the front row." A round of righteous applause burst forth, causing the fresh, wide-eyed group of 13-year-olds to cover their ears in wonder. Lanny poked Megan, Samid, and Alex and pointed out her little brother, Henry, just 10 years old, sitting in the front row. "Father wasn't going to waste any more time in getting him here," she said, grinning. The crowd buzzed, and then their voices died down as Mr. Today continued. "For now, let us welcome new friends to Arteme. Let us remember the ones we lost. And let us also remember this day as the day we have been redeemed. Wear your unwanted title like a badge of honor, for we have prevailed." The crowd erupted in applause, and for those who could manage it, a standing ovation for their leader. But Alex couldn't help but recall his conversation with Aaron and wonder if everything was really going to be as easy as Mr. Today implied. In fact, he knew it wouldn't be. After the lawn had mostly cleared, Alex remained seated with his friends, not quite ready to battle the crowds. Simber nodded to the small group as he passed by. Megan and Samid lay back on the fresh green lawn, dozing off while listening to the platyprots chatter and giggle. When Mr. Today finished speaking privately to High Priest Gunnar, and they said their goodbyes, Lanny hopped up, hugged her father, and bid farewell for now, promising a visit soon. She plopped down next to Alex once again and leaned back, resting her head on his arm and humming a new little song she'd learned the day before from Miss Morning. "So," Lanny said, "what do you suppose will happen to Aaron? Do you want to see him again?" "We talked," Alex said. "My father says Aaron's feeling terrible about hurting you and about how he exposed Arteme. That sort of thing. Father says he seems sincere." "Yeah, I don't know about that," Alex said. "I don't believe it. He's quite an actor, no matter how much he denies his creativity." He closed his eyes and paused, thinking. "I just don't know if I can ever trust him again. I guess maybe it's like Justine and Mr. Today. They grew so far apart, there'd have been no way they could ever get back to each other again with all that junk between them. Maybe it's better if he and I don't see each other again, at least for a while." Lanny turned to look at Alex. "Well, that's sort of sad." Alex was quiet. "Yeah, it is." "I think you'll know if you're ever ready to give it a try," Lanny said. Alex smiled. He reached for a strand of her hair and twirled it lazily in his finger. His eyes closed, his heart almost full, his body mostly healed. Things weren't perfect, and they never would be. He knew. But for a 14-year-old boy, resting on the lawn in the warm sunshine, the sea gently lapping at the shore, his friends all around, he sighed. At least for now, things were good. It was more than any unwanted could ever hope for. And that, my friends, is the completion of the first book. Second book coming soon.